Our nightmare was trying to tell us something. This morning, I woke up with cold sweats, and I was out of breath. It was 3:45 a.m. I had a nightmare. All I remember is a man staring at me through my window. It was too dark to make out a face, but he was visibly drenched with water. His skin looked pale and bluish. He opened his mouth really wide, and that's when I woke up. I definitely can't go back to sleep after that. I have a good habit of writing down every dream/nightmare I have as soon as I wake up. I feel they sometimes have some sort of meaning. I heard my dad getting ready for work, and my mom was up making his breakfast. I overheard my dad talking to my mom. He said something about how everything is going to be okay, the hallucinations will go away with time. That kinda made me feel uneasy. Is my mom going through something ick about? OFC, they won't tell their teenage daughter anything of that sort. I'm just going to leave it alone for now. I'm still in shock about what I just dreamt about. I need to shower my cold sweats away, start my day early since I know I won't fall back asleep. School starts in a couple hours anyway. Later that day, me and my brother just got home from school. MOM, I yelled as we walked in the house, but she didn't answer. Her car is still in the driveway, so I know she's home. My brother said she's probably up in her room. I went up to check on her since I like telling her about my day. I got to her room door, and it was locked. Hey Mom, are you in there? I put my ear to the door, and I heard some mumbling, but couldn't make out any words. Mom, are you okay in there? Yes. I'm fine, I'll be right out, she said in an uneasy tone. I walked towards my room, but as I passed the bathroom I noticed that the floor was flooded. The bath looked like it overflowed. What the FCK, I whispered. I go back towards my mom's room, and she frantically opens the door and shuts it quick right behind her as if she didn't want me looking in. I'm about to clean it. I accidentally fell asleep while taking a bath and had the water running. I go with her and help clean it up. Mom, are you okay? I overheard Dad this morning say something about you seeing things. I'm fine. Nothing's wrong, I'm just not sleeping enough. Oh yeah, I understand. I couldn't fall back asleep this morning. I had such a weird nightmare. What was it about? I don't remember much. It was a man at my window. His clothes were soaked. He honestly looked dead. Like if he drowned or something. She looked mortified. She asked if I can finish cleaning up, and she ran to her room and slammed the door shut. I was so confused, but I finished cleaning. I went downstairs. I asked my brother, who was eating in the dining room, do you think Mom is acting a bit strange? No, I haven't noticed, he said. Of course he hasn't. I go on and tell him about the dream I had, and he looked at me shocked, as if he knew what I was referring to. He said, I also had a strange dream about a man. He was standing at the foot of my bed, and he was also soaked, but his back was facing me. There was no way he had a similar dream as me. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, tbh. How could he have had basically the same dream as me? He said the dream felt so vivid. Mine did too. This has gotten really weird now, and I'm overthinking it. This definitely has to have some sort of meaning behind it. My mom came downstairs looking completely out of it. She looks tired, stressed, honestly scared. She said she's running an errand to the hardware store and told us, stay out of my room, in an aggressive tone. Me and my brother looked at each other, and I told her to drive safe. We saw her driving off, and I told my brother, we have to see what's in her room. My brother agreed, and we went to her door, and it was of course locked. We didn't know how to pick a lock, and we obviously didn't want to break the door open. I suggested we get the ladder from the garage and go through her window and hope it's unlocked. We went to the garage, and we were so confused that our dad's car was parked inside. He was supposed to be at work. WTF is Dad's car doing here? I said. We didn't have too much time to think about it. So we grabbed the ladder and went to their bedroom window in the backyard. I climbed up first, and luckily the window was unlocked. I jumped in, and my brother came in right after. We looked around, and their room looked pretty normal until my brother realized that there was a puddle of water coming from under the closet door. We both looked at each other, and we slowly walked over to the closet. I opened the door, and there he was, laying on the floor, our father, soaked, Pale blue skin, mouth wide open, dead.
Don't ever sleep in your car on a road trip. I'm from Connecticut. I was in a long-distance relationship with a girl from Georgia, and would often make road trips down to visit her. I don't really mind, I love road trips. I've driven across the United States and back, all on my own. There's just something about traveling the highways of the US by yourself that's just so freeing. To save money, I would sleep in my car. It's not so bad, it's basically camping, in a metal tent. Makes you feel like you're really roughing it. I just recline the seat back, keep the key in the ignition just in case, and doze off. No, I don't put anything up to block the windows for privacy. Maybe I should have. The trip down south is a comfortable 2-day drive. My stop would usually be somewhere along the Virginia-North Carolina border. So for my previous trip, that's exactly where I stopped that night. Rest stops were often less trafficked and thus quieter than truck stops. Normally I would have stopped at a Love's, but I was so tired that I settled for the first rest stop I saw. It was oddly vacant that night, with only a couple lone cars sitting forlorn under the amber street lamps. Most likely travelers with the same idea as myself. I pulled into a parking spot away from the others, under the shadow of a tree and far from the street lamps. I figured I would have more privacy there as opposed to being bathed in light. So, I did my usual thing, locked my doors, opened the window just a hair for ventilation, kept my key in, reclined the seat, and went to sleep. I was never interrupted on any of these car camping nights. So I never suspected anything on this one. Then a sharp tap woke me up. At first I thought I had heard it in my dream. I opened my eyes, a bit confused. Since I was leaned back, I was facing the ceiling and couldn't see anything. I hear another tap. Like a tiny object hitting a hard surface. Was it raining? Was water dripping onto my windshield? I'm under a tree, maybe something fell from the branches. Maybe a squirrel or a bird was dropped something. What if a squirrel was climbing around my car? Or what if it wasn't an animal? The thought occurred to me that it might very well be a person poking around outside. What did they want? Were the doors locked? Yes. The keys were in the ignition. I can leave in an instant. Still, I lay there, completely still, pretending to be asleep. Pretending I hadn't heard anything. Hoping whoever it was, they would leave me alone. It was better to not find out. I was too afraid to find out. It was better to stay here in blissful ignorance. Still the tapping continued. I had to do something. There was no way I was just going to stay there. I had to look. My heart was pounding. In that moment, it was deafeningly loud. Whoever was out there could probably hear it, I decided. I was going to look. I was going to raise my head up and see what was making the noise. So that's what I did. What met my eyes sent a jolt through entire body. Every muscle fiber locked up in pure shock at what I saw. The faint glow of the street lamps cast just enough light for me to make out what I'm looking at. There in the windshield, staring directly at me, was a face. Someone, I presume to be a woman, was lying on my hood, her face pressed right up against my windshield. Her face was completely still, locked in a permanent grin. I froze in overwhelming terror. The eyes I stared into appeared to have rolled back, showing only the whites. The nose was turned up, pressed painfully into the glass. The lips stretched wide, revealing horrid rotten teeth. Even in the darkness, I could tell her skin was sickly pale, contrasting her long, filthy black hair. Whoever this was, she was clearly not in her right mind. I don't know how long I sat there, too afraid to move. Finally, I got a grip on myself and shot my hand to the ignition. It turned over, making, in that instant, the most beautiful sound I ever heard. For a split second, I was afraid I might be caught in a horror movie scenario, the one where the car won't crank as the killer approaches. I reversed as fast as I could, trying not to give this creeper time to try anything. In my panic, I remember activating the windshield wipers in a futile attempt to get her off. I thought, was I about to drive out of here with some wacko holding onto my hood? Thankfully, I didn't have to worry about that, because as soon as I stopped, the woman leapt off, landing on all fours. Seeing my opportunity, I shifted into drive and gunned it, right as I saw her reaching for the driver's side door. With my foot on the gas, I sped out of the parking lot. Behind me, I heard her let out a piercing shriek like that of an animal. I looked in my rearview mirror and for a split second I thought I saw her chasing me, running on all fours, her black hair swinging wildly around her. I couldn't get a good look, as I rounded a curve in the road leading out of the rest stop and merged with the highway. There, I picked up speed, and drove through the night. I did not dare stop again until I saw the morning light.